Hello and welcome to the augforums.com podcast. My name is Tim Rodman and we are live today on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025. And this is episode number 157. You can see the link to the episode page on the screen there at augforums.com/episode 157. There you'll find related links for the episode. And you also have a place to leave a comment on the bottom. Or if there's anyone who attends this live, which doesn't look like there is at this point, but you can add a comment on either LinkedIn or YouTube, wherever you are watching this live. I am coming to you today from my hotel room in Salt Lake City, Utah. And because of that, I don't trust the Wi-Fi connection here. This might be a little choppy. And so what I did is I recorded what I wanted to show last night, and I'll play that in a moment here. I did that. I think we'll get a better experience than we would if I was doing it all live, at least hopefully. We'll see how that goes. I've got that queued up and ready to play. But before I get to that, I did want to cover what I've been up to with Trailed lately. So I'm out here this week in Utah for doing my Power BI workshop for acuMatica users. If you have interest in Power BI or just learning more about the difference between a BI tool and the out-of-the-box reporting tools in acuMatica, or really any ERP solution for that matter, then this is definitely something you'd probably be interested in. And you can check out right on the homepage at augforums.com the cities that I have scheduled, or reach out to me at tim@augforums.com if you'd like to host something in your area. I typically look for an acuMatica customer that has a room that could handle 15 to 20 people with a classroom style setup, power for everyone's laptops, and a big screen up front so I could share my screen. If you've got that and you'd like to host the Power BI workshop for acuMatica users, then please let me know, tim@augforums.com. So I'm out here in Salt Lake City today. I'll be doing the Power BI workshop tomorrow. Got a couple of visits planned today. But then last week I was in New Jersey, Rutherford, New Jersey, close to New York City, for their user group there, and also did the Power BI workshop there. We had a pretty good turnout, and also got to do some visits on that trip. And then let's see, last month in August, week of August 11th, I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I didn't do the Power BI workshop there, but I did attend their user group and just participated in the discussions that they had. I really liked an icebreaker that they did. They put, I think it was maybe 5 different topics, like acuMatica topics, and you put them in a little bowl and you pick one out, and that's the group you got paired up with. Then we all just stood around in circles around the room and talked about that particular topic. But of course, it just turned into a way to talk about anything that people were working on or struggling with in acuMatica. It was a great icebreaker and a great way to get the room talking to each other, and then stayed afterwards and had more conversations. I also offered to do the Power BI workshop if they like at a future gathering. And then 2 months ago, the week of July 13th, I was up in Vancouver, Canada, and that was to meet with the Trailed team, and a bunch of great takeaways from that trip. But my main highlight was meeting the person who has been running the payments product for Trailed. So Trailed is now doing payments. So instead of cutting checks, you can send payments out either digitally, or Trailed will also cut the check if the vendor still wants a check. And that kind of thing has been around for a while now, but I think COVID made it very popular to just stop printing checks, stop doing your own manual payments, and it pays for itself when you do digital payments. So Trailed's doing that now, and my main takeaway was that the person who's running it really knows what they're doing in the world of payments, not just executing domestic payments here in the United States, but executing payments all over the world, because there's so much complexity on the back end to make that happen and make it happen smoothly. And this person has built a good sized payments product in the past. And so totally knows that world and just very talks very intelligently about it, down to the details, can handle all the questions. And anyways, I just came away being really impressed with where the trailed payments product is heading, and picked all that up in Vancouver a couple months ago. So that's all my updates for what I've been up to with trailed lately. Actually, I do have one more, but I think I'll save that till next time. And this is part 4. So acuCONNECT 2025 preparation part 4. Put it back on the screen there. So I've done about 3.5 hours of video so far in part 1, 2, and 3. And I'm doing this, as I explained in previous episodes, because I wanted to document why I built it this way and how I built it, so that you could refer back to that if you're interested in the details. I'll get about 30 minutes to present on Friday at 1:20 p.m. For acuCONNECT. Let me go ahead and pull that up here. Give me a moment. It's acu-connect.com. Let me put that on the screen as well. So if you go to that website right there, acu-connect.com, you will see something that looks like this. Let me get my screen pulled up here. All right, so here's acuconnect.com. You can go on the top here to acuCONNECT 2025. And I'm already registered, so I won't register. But when that comes up in a moment here, you can register. But then if you keep scrolling down, you'll see the agenda. So it's 2 days. It's Thursday, September 18th, and Friday, September 19th. The session I'm doing is on Friday, September 19th. And if you scroll down here, my session's at 1:20 p.m., visualizing inventory balance, dollars, and service level percentage together. So I've got half an hour to do that on Friday, but I wanted to do these broadcasts to give more detail around how I built what I built. So I think without further ado, let's wrap it up here in part 4. So this will be the last part of preparation. I only have 3 days left until acuCONNECT on Friday, and so this will be the last one. But I'm pretty happy with where I landed. There's some things I'd still like to do, but just won't have time to do. And you'll see me cover that in this recording here, which I will play now. I think it's about 30 minutes. And again, I'm doing this because I don't trust the hotel Wi-Fi, and hopefully this will give a smoother experience for the video here. All right, so here we go. Before we pick up with where we left off in part 3, I want to cover a couple changes I made after ending the part 3 recording. First off, I moved the generic inquiries over to my 2025 R2 environment. This is still a preview build. Our R2 will probably get officially released next month in October, but I've got my preview build working, and I figured why not move it over, start to get used to it. So we'll see our inquiries here. So we've got our inventory one, and if I look at this, you'll see I did a couple of changes. Maybe it wasn't to this one, it might have been to the others. Let's see what happens here. I think it was to the other two, but let's just get a refresher on where we left off in part 3. Yeah, so I don't think I made any changes here, but this is showing not the inventory balances, but the change in the inventory values by week. So we're going to have to do a running total when we get over to Excel, but at least we've got the data by week, because doing it by week was important. And then we had 2 other ones. We had this order 01 and the order 02. So the orders 01 is showing the detail. And here's where I think I did add, I added a column down here, which is the week. So I think that was the only change I did here. Let's see, we got the sales orders whether each line is good. And I think this is like a buggy R2 preview build thing. I don't know what's going on here. These columns are really wide. And when I change them, I get an error. I'm not sure what's happening there. But I added this week column in because I wanted to be able to filter on it from the orders 0-2 inquiry like this. So I added in the order 0-2, I used the navigation tab, and I added basically a drill down to order 0-1. I said open it in a new tab just because that's my personal navigation style. I like opening things in new tabs so I can just close it down and be back where I was originally. And then here's where we needed that week field in the order 0-1 inquiry. Can't tell by the name, but that is the week field. We're saying filter the week. It's there, that field. Filter this week by the value in. This is the week field for the order 0-2 inquiry. Then you have to attach the navigation to a field. I thought it made most sense to me personally to attach it to the service level number. So you just change the navigate to that the navigation that we added that unchecks the default navigation. And by doing that, when we view inquiry, we now get something that looks like this. And so what's nice about this, let's take a look at it in order here. Let's say we want to drill down on the 94% service level and we want to validate it. So for week ending June 28th, you can see it opens a separate tab and it drills us down to the order 0-1 inquiry. Can we get this buggy preview build thing? But it filters on the week column for just that week, and we can confirm the numbers. So if we do maybe something like this, I can see that we have, let's go full screen here. We got 15 good lines. Go to the next page. 16, 17, so 17 out of 18 are good. If we do the math on that, 94%. So we can close, gives us a way to check the math. If we close down the tab, there's our 94%. So it just gives us a easy way to validate these numbers by one click and drilling down into the detail. Okay, so I think that's all I did. I moved it over to the R2, made a few changes, and then basically what we need to do now is pick up with where we left off by using just the inventory one and the order 0-2 and pulling that information together in Excel. So let's open a brand new Excel file. And I think what I should do, sorry, let me close your eyes on this. Or maybe not, you might find this interesting. We're going to use Power Query in Excel to connect to those generic inquiries, but I don't want it to remember my credentials because I want to show you what that looks like. So let me clear out those credentials. Okay. All right, so we're starting with a blank Excel file, and you can do this with native Excel as long as you're on a somewhat recent version. I think most people are on Office 365, so you've got the latest and greatest. This probably hasn't changed in at least 5 years, so chances are very slim that you do not have this. But the functionality I'm going to use is called Power Query. And I'm trying to click on this. This is not working for me. I wanted to show you, I guess that might not work. Oh well, I wanted to show you my version of Excel. It's an Office 365 version, so it's latest and greatest. So to use Power Query, we're going to use data right here, get data from other sources, from OData feed. Then we need to get our base URL. So for most people, this is going to be yourcompany.acumatica.com. I'm running locally, so mine looks a little different, localhost/acu2025r2. Yours, again, probably yourcompany.acumatica.com. I'm going to paste that in there. You'll then do /odata, then / the tenant that you want to connect to. Now, for me, in my case, I want to connect to my sales demo tenant. So I'm going to type in sales space demo. I believe this is case sensitive, so you just need to type it in exactly like you see it on the login screen here. I'll log back in. And then click OK. Now, only the first time you try to connect, it's going to ask you for your username and password. You need to click Basic on the left-hand side, then put in your regular acuCONNECT username and password. I'm only getting this because I'm running localhost and it's not HTTPS, so don't worry about that. You shouldn't get that message in your environment. After this, it's going to remember the credential. That's why I went in and cleared mine out, so you could see this prompt. So you'll only, and it's only going to remember it on your computer. So now what it's doing is it's going into Acumatica and it's looking for all of the generic inquiries that have the enable for OData box checked. And I believe we do have that checked on both the inventory one. You can see in the new 2025 R2 they moved the options from the top over to this interface options tab, which I like because it was starting to take up a lot of space on the top. But what I'm talking about here is this box, the expose via OData. So as long as that's checked, you can see we didn't check it for order 01, but I did check it for order 02. And that's why when I come back to Excel, we're seeing inventory. We're not seeing order 01, but we are seeing order 02. All right, now I want to connect to both of these, so I'm going to select multiple items. I'm going to click on each one of these, and then down here I'm going to click Transform Data. I could load it directly into the sheet, but I find more than 90% of the time I want to do some type of manipulation on the data. I don't want to load it in as is, and that's why I go to Transform Data right here. Alright, so on the inventory, I'm going to get rid of, just rename these, just call it inventory, and just call this order 02. And let's do a little bit of manipulation here. Let's take the inventory one. Like first thing I notice, it's got a bunch of extra columns in here. Like ours only had 3 columns that we care about. It's just something that OData does. It brings in the key value columns. So let's right click and remove those. And then here I don't need the time. It's always 12 a.m. for this data. So let's just change this from a date time to a date. And otherwise I'm happy with that. So we'll keep that. You'll see it adds in these breadcrumbs on the right hand side. That's how Excel will know to always apply those steps every time it refreshes the data. If I click on order 02, I've got the same thing going on. Got a bunch of columns that I don't care about, so let's get rid of those. We have a lot more columns that I don't care about. Let's get rid of those. Let's call this date. I also want to make this called week. You'll see why in a moment. See, I've got 2 columns now called week. Just make those consistent. And then what we're going to end up doing is we're going to bring this into the Power Pivot area in Excel. Also something that's natively available in Excel. But when you do that, you pretty much always want a dates table for all sorts of different reasons that I won't go into. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to create a dates table that has the earliest date and the latest date from both of these queries. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do a new query here. And I'm going to do combine, and I think it's append. Yeah, you can see up here, append will be like putting 2 tables on top of each other. A merge is more like a VLOOKUP or a join, where it's going to put them, it's going to go get extra columns from another query. I want to put them on top of each other, so we're going to do append. And I'm going to tell it, let's just put these 2 queries together. That gives me everything from both queries. I only care about the week table for my dates. with a week column for my dates table. So let's get rid of these. And then I've also got some duplicates now because there's a lot of weeks that are in both of the queries, so we need to remove the duplicates by right-click and remove duplicates. And then I'm just going to sort in descending order so I can see the latest first. All right, so I've now got all the weeks, but I'm making sure that I have the oldest week from both the service level calculation and the inventory balance. Whichever one is older, that will be the first week essentially. I'm going to call this dates. So now we've got 3 tables of data that we're going to bring back into Excel. And when we bring it back, we're going to use this down arrow here. And we don't want close and load, which is the default. We want close and load to. Now when we do that, that enables us to, once it pops up here, there we go. I don't actually want to bring the data back into the regular Excel worksheet. So I'm just going to do only create connection. But I am going to check add this data to the data model, which is the Power Pivot area. So we'll check that, only create connection, and click OK. So now it's loading the data from acuMatica over OData into Excel. When it's done, let's click Save. Let's put this on the desktop here. Give it a name. And let's take a look at it here. So what I want to point out is if I scroll over to the right here, you can see this is not a tiny Excel file. 221 kilobytes. It's actually storing the data in the XLSX file that we see here. We just don't see it in the worksheet like you're used to seeing in regular Excel. So where is it? Well, it's buried in this tiny little icon, which I think is funny because it's a major enhancement to Excel. And I'll even, let me pull up a blog post here. Let's see, what is Power BI? Here's a blog post that I wrote back in 2015, but it's still just as relevant as it was back then. And if you ever heard of MrExcel.com, that's run by a guy named Bill Jelen from Akron, Ohio. And he said that Power Pivot is the best thing to happen to Excel in 20 years. That's a direct quote from him. And it's a pretty big deal, very big deal. But what I think is funny is you have to go over to the data ribbon and then look for this tiny little icon. And you can then come up here to manage data model to find it. I wish it was a bigger button because it's a big deal. When you do that, it'll pop open a separate window, and you can see on the top it calls this Power Pivot. This has basically now been renamed Power BI, but the whole calculation engine that you find on PowerBI.com and in Power BI Desktop is available in Microsoft Excel. It's just called Power Pivot. That's the old name for it. And here's where our data got loaded. So you can see our inventory query, our orders 02, and our dates table all got loaded in here. But we need to tell Excel how to join these tables together. So to do that, we click on the diagram view. It doesn't matter how these are arranged, but for my brain, I like putting what I call, well, not what I call, what is typically considered the dimension tables on the top, and then I put the fact tables on the bottom. That's like data warehouse language. And then I draw the relationships between them. So we're going to draw relationship on week from both tables up to the dates table. Now we can close out of here. And we're all set up here. So before I actually drop a chart on here, I'm going to turn off the grid lines just to give me an Excel canvas that looks more like a dashboard canvas and less like a spreadsheet. And then let's insert a pivot chart, which is somewhere in here. Here it is. We'll do a down arrow here and we'll do a pivot chart. And you'll see, normally if you do a pivot table, or in this case a pivot chart, you're going to pick a range of cells in the worksheet. Well, we didn't load the data there because in my opinion, better way to do it is to put it in the data model / power pivot. And to do a pivot, either a regular pivot table or a pivot chart in this case, we're going to tell it to use the data model. And then I'm going to tell it to put it in the existing sheet in this cell right here. So click OK. I guess it didn't put it in the cell, but there we have it. And let's see, what do we want to do here? We want to put the week from the dates table on the axis. And then, and I don't like how it does this. It defaults to giving us like a group of year, quarter, month. I just want the individual weeks. And we could do something like this. Let's just get something on there, and then I'm going to change the way I do things here. All right, so at least we get something on our chart here. It's summing up the service level. I would probably do like a max on the service level. I guess it doesn't matter in this case. So we can see that we're seeing all the service levels across the weeks. I want to see this as a line chart. So, sorry, I'm going too fast. Right click, change chart type, and I'm going to change this to a line. Click OK. And then it's probably too much for me to try to show 2013 all the way to 2025. So I want to insert up here a timeline slicer, which is right here. And I want to do it on the week field from the dates table because that's what's on the axis here. Click OK. And I'll put that on the top. Let's put that on the bottom. Let me collapse the ribbon a little bit. Give me a little more space to work with. That's looking good. I think let's just extend this to be about the same size. Let's see, there is a option here that'll snap it to grid. Where is that option? There we go, snap to grid. So when I drag now, it'll snap it to the nearest column. That's just a quick, easy way to get everything lined up the same. All right, we're looking good here. Let me make this a little bit taller. I don't really care about these buttons, so I'm going to right click and hide all field buttons. I do want a nice chart title, so we'll come back to that. And, oh yeah, so up here, sorry, I didn't want to drag that. Resize this. Not sure why I'm having trouble. Oh, maybe that's why. I'm having trouble resizing this. There we go. Okay, so I wanted to scroll over here. There we go. So maybe I want to see just like January 2024 all the way out to the latest 2025 date. You can just drag this over. Although July does not look great, so let's just take it out to June. There we go. At least this is not too crowded. I can see all of the weeks, and I don't have a line that's super scrunched up. So this is looking good. I'm liking this. And then I want to put this up on, oh, is it going to let me do that? I'm having trouble right-clicking for some reason. Well, might not be able to do this. Let's see if I pause the recording, if I can do it. Alright, so I just paused, I right-clicked, and I did Format Legend. And I want the legend on, instead of on the right, because I don't know, maybe it is okay on the right. Well, I'm going to try putting it on the top. And then I'm going to tell it it's okay to overlap the chart. Just because I want more width than I do height. So I'm okay with that. I wish I could somehow remove this top line. Well, I'm not going to mess with it anymore. Good enough. Lots of formatting options when you move to Excel, which is nice. Alright, so now I'm going to pause the video again. I'm going to go look for some notes that I have on something. I'll be right back. Okay, so I got what I wanted here. So right now, we're just looking at service level. Now, one of the big reasons why I ended up giving up on trying to do it in acuMatica, just for the sake of time, maybe there was a way, but I gave up on doing it in acuMatica because I needed to, or I wanted to, show both service level and the inventory balance with a running total inventory balance, but have two different axes on here. So let's solve that problem first. So let's see, I am in the chart. Get back to my fields on the right hand side. Here. And let's get a start at least to what we want to plot. So I can put the cost on here. And here's the problem when you only have things on one axis. I've got an inventory balance, which is really big numbers, and I've got a service level, which is just 0 to 100. So it looks like a flat line. I mean, that 100 is such a tiny value, the blue line doesn't even move up and down. So the way to solve that problem is I can take one of these values, and I think I want to do this one. So I'm going to take the service level, I'm going to right click on it, and yay, I can right click now, good. And I need to remember where it is. I think Format Data Series. Here we go. Plot series on secondary axis. So when I click this, we'll now see that I have something that looks a lot nicer. The axis on the left is the inventory values, which is the orange line, and the axis on the right is the service level values, which is the blue line. So this is what I was looking for. Now the problem we have here is the orange line is not showing me the running total, the balance of inventory, it's just showing me the activity in a given period, which is not what I want. So I'm going to need to write a running total calculation. And I can do that in Power Pivot using something called a measure. And a measure, in my opinion, is the real power in Power BI / Power Pivot, is the ability to write these kind of calculations. So how do we do that? I'm going to put everything in the dates table. It doesn't matter what table you put it in. But I'm going to right click, do add measure. And I'm going to create my own, first of all, create my own service level. I'm sorry, is that right? I'm checking my notes here. Yeah, I guess so. Let's start with service level. This is the easier of the two. Call it service level. And you see I get a formula editor here. The language for writing a measure is called DAX. When you start off, it's similar to Excel formulas, but there's a lot more that you can do with it. I'll just leave it at that. And let's see. I'm checking my notes for what I want to write here. Let's start off real simple. Let's just do basically the same calculation that we're already doing. We're doing max of the service level. So I'm going to do max of the value in the order 0 to service level column. I'm going to make this return a whole number, and we'll check the thousands box. So when I add that, you'll see I get a new field in the dates table. Didn't matter which table we added it to, but I know it's a measure because it has this FX in front of it. So I can click this to add it to the chart, and let's remove the old one in the chart. Let me put them like that. And then I guess I have to do this again. We need to format the data series and put it on the secondary axis. All right, so at this point, everything's basically the same as we had before. But there is something I wanted to change. Where's my... I guess I don't have any service levels that are a value of 0, so I guess I'm okay. Never mind, we can leave that as is. I thought this was a 0, I was going to eliminate it, but it's a 5. All right, good enough on the service level. So that's how to create our first measure. Now for the inventory balance, we're going to create another measure here, because this we don't have yet. We don't have a running total. And this one, I always forget how to do it. So one nice thing about tools like ChatGPT, or if I was further along with Microsoft Copilot, it'd probably make more sense to do it in Copilot because DAX is a Microsoft language. But you'll see I just went over to DAX and can you help me calculate a running total in DAX, which is the language for measures. And it comes up with the basic pattern that I need here. I only need this part right here. So let me just copy the whole thing, paste it in here, and I already gave it a name, so I don't need a name. And then we just need to swap out what the values are. So I want to do a running total on the inventory cost, and it's going to be using the dates week. Okay. Let's make this a whole number and give it 1,000. Give it the commas. So now we can put this on the values. Get rid of the old one. Now we have something, instead of like having these wild swings where it goes below 0, this is actually the running total of the inventory value. And then I guess we still need to do this every time. Plot on secondary axis. All right. So that, I believe, is basically it. I'll just do one last thing. I think it's always a good practice to add a chart title. I'm going to call this inventory balance versus service level by week. And we wind up with a chart that's charting both the inventory balance and the service level. Now, if I had more time, or it is 11 o'clock on a Monday night here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm going to broadcast this live in the morning, but my acuCONNECT session is 4 days from now, less than 4 days. If I had more time, I'd probably try to populate in some meaningful sample data, which was my original idea on this, but at this point, I'm not going to get there. So this sample data, not the greatest. But anyways, we can see the inventory value going up and going down a little. We can see service level right on top. And I like this chart because if you're going to do something to try to help you manage your inventory better, like use Acumatica's replenishment module, use a third-party ISV product, do something to try to reduce that amount of inventory that's just been sitting there for months and months. That's fine. We want to see that inventory balance going down, but we also don't want to see a big impact on the service level. So this chart gets us that information all in one place, and you'd be able to keep an eye on both in one nice simple chart instead of having to bounce back and forth and have your brain try to overlap them in your head. You're just able to have it all on the screen right here. So that's it. So I'll take this and present a shorter version of this on Friday, but I wanted to have this as a video backup for those who are interested in more of the details. Oh, looks like I was muted. Hopefully that played okay over the hotel Wi-Fi here. Just a reminder that my acuCONNECT session will be this Friday, and you can see the agenda. I guess you can just go directly to acu-connect.com/acuCONNECT without a dash for some reason. But then there's a dash, 2025. It's all on the screen right there. And just scroll to the bottom, you'll see the agenda and my sessions on Friday, but there's a lot of other great sessions as well. I kind of have a feeling that most people are going to go to Haley's session because she's done some really great stuff at past acuCONNECTs, but of course the recording will be available, and I'll put it on a blog post as well on my site once that recording is available. So with that, that'll do it for my 4-part preparation series. Hopefully that gives you something good to go back to if you want to dig into the details. Otherwise, I'll catch you on Friday. Take care.